I'm determined to get to the bottom of this Donald Trump thing. We know you've probably heard this clip 10,000 times, but there's a reason we're bringing it to you again. Here it is, the exchange between Fox News' Megyn Kelly and Trump that sparked the latest firestorm.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president?
What I say is what I say. And honestly, Megyn, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
Many thought those comments might sink the unsinkable Donald Trump, but as we just heard, he's alive and relatively well in Iowa. How about New Hampshire and beyond? We've gathered an all-women caucus tonight to tackle the issue. Joining me are Paula Johnson. She's co-chair of the Women's Coalition for Trump. She's a former New Hampshire state rep. Good to see you, Paula.
Nice to
Jenn
be here.
Coffey is also a former New Hampshire state rep, now current Trump supporter. And Kirsten Hughes, hi there, Jenn. Kirsten Hughes is chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, who was actually at the debate in Cleveland. We'll get to that in a minute. So, Paula, anything that Donald Trump has said in the past that Megyn Kelly just repeated that offended you?
Absolutely not.
Why not? Fat pig, slob, none of that bothers you?
You know, he's had an ongoing battle with Rosie O'Donnell, and I don't think it went anything past that. And I wasn't offended at all. I'm still a big supporter of
But
his.
she said, but what Megyn Kelly said, you know to be true. It's not just about Rosie O'Donnell. He said those things. If he said it about you, I don't know if you have a daughter or a daughter. Would you say that just doesn't bother me? That's the way he is?
Wait a minute.
Well, let me ask her, and then I'll get to Jen. I'll get to you, Jen. I will get to you in a second. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You know, it doesn't offend me. You know, people can. This is a free country. That's why we have free speech. It's our First Amendment right.
Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't be allowed to say it,
But you know
of course.
what the thing is? I haven't heard any of the other comments he said about other women, so I'm going to say that I haven't heard it, but he hasn't offended me at this point in time. And if he offends me, I can take care of myself, and I say, Mr. Trump, I don't like what you said. Please rephrase it.
Jen, are you in the same spot as Paula on this?
Bottom line, the woman he supposedly said this to is all over the news today.
Right.
She was interviewed by The Hill. She's not offended. What right do I have to step on her toes on how she feels about what was said in the context of a TV show?
So if she was offended, then you'd be offended?
I'm not around.
No, excuse me.
No,
you said she wasn't offended, so you're not.
If
she was offended, would you be offended?
If somebody made a comment to me personally that I would take offense to, absolutely.
So let me be clear. There's nothing there is nothing he could say unless he said it to you directly that would offend you.
I don't have a problem with him being on a reality TV show with somebody and making comments, and they had a reality TV whatever. I don't watch reality TV. I watch...
This is reality TV.
What's reality TV? Why aren't we sitting here talking about economics and jobs? Why are we talking about sound bites and garbage?
Yeah, why don't you take a minute and tell me all the economic and job proposals that Donald Trump has laid out?
Sure, absolutely.
Give me one.
Give you one? Okay. Donald Trump recognizes the fact that we have issues with commerce. And
that's a proposal?
No, excuse me. Let me finish.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
In commerce, in order to get your products to and from market to other countries, we have trade agreements that are unfair to our nation.
So what's his proposal? Better trade agreements?
Better trade agreements with other countries.
Okay.
How about putting a stop to the fact that we've got companies like CRKT, an American company that's supported by the American Knife and Tool Institute, that are dealing with knockoffs of their products that are coming into our country from China, unchecked, and
what do you think about his tie being made in China, his Trump tie being made in China? What do you think of that?
I don't care about where it's made.
Okay, Kirsten, if I may, you are a woman. We're aware that you're chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party.
Last time I checked, I was
all three of you. Any of this bother you or no? I know, by the way, we should make clear, you're not, as chair of the party, you're not allowed to endorse candidates or whatever. But in terms of Trump himself, any of this trouble you?
Well, I found the question interesting because it was, are those remarks presidential? And is that the tone that we want our president to take? So I find that a very valid question. I do find the remarks that he has made in the past and those that he has made going forward some offensive, yes. And it's okay, you know, I can find them offensive. But again, I think the question is that something that we want for our president?
Is it something you want for your president?
I think that, you know, sometimes tact and personality personality are important factors for the president, and I think that that's a valid question. I don't know that that's okay for me.
By the way, did you
better
laugh
than
at the
having a
Rosie?
poll.
Jen, if I can hold it for one
Sorry.
second, I'll get back to you. It's okay. Did you laugh at the Rosie O'Donnell joke? It was the loudest laugh by far in the whole auditorium.
You know, I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh just because I really wanted to sit there and listen to what the other candidates had to say.
We got an email yesterday, Jen.
Donald Trump hair.
Pardon me, I'm sorry, what?
Would you have laughed if they made yet another joke about Donald Trump's hair?
No,
By the way, in the
probably
spirit
not.
of fairness, I've made that jokes, and you're right. It's what's good for the goose. Let me stay with you for a second, though. Yesterday we were talking about this very issue on the radio, and a couple of people who are Trump supporters emailed and said, how come you're not equally upset with the fact that you learned that if you're concerned about the war on women, so to speak? Scott Walker, no exceptions for Life of the Mother, we found out from Megyn Kelly. Jeb Bush said recently, I'm not sure we need $500 million for women's health issues. Isn't that substantively much more scary in terms of women's issues than his rhetoric about women, meaning Donald Trump's?
Well, I do think that substantive points on issues are far more important to discuss. Now, we could delve into different candidates and what they think on different issues. But I do think that those points are the ones that are worth discussing. And also the fact that Hillary Clinton has issues with women and her women voters. Nobody's talking about that. They're all talking about Trump. And I get it. It's the summer. Nobody's paying attention to substantive policy.
Nobody's paying attention. It was the biggest watched presidential primary debate ever.
To substantive policy decisions.
You know, Paula, speaking of substantive policy, since Jen criticized me a minute ago, I'm going to listen to her. What's the allure? If you're not troubled by the comment about, well, I assume you're not troubled with the comments about John McCain or Mexican rapists, none of that bothers you.
Well, what bothers me is that...
Is that correct? That doesn't bother you?
No, it doesn't.
So what's the allure? What is it about Trump that draws you to his candidacy, Paul?
Well, first of all, he's not an establishment candidate. I am tired of looking at all the establishment politicians that have to take donations from these big PACs. And then what happens is, over the years, are they representing me? No, they're representing their donors. That's number one. Number two, who's really talking about the deficit? We've got $19 trillion in deficit. When we hit $24 trillion, we're going to be worse than Greece.
What's Trump saying about the deficit?
And he's talking about that. He says...
What's he going to do about it?
He's going to, well, you know what? If you create jobs, you get more tax revenue
and
curb spending. And then what we have to do is we have to get rid of these illegals in this country. We had a woman in Sacramento, California, who just got beaten and murdered by 2 illegals. Nobody talked about this prior to. He brings it to the forefront.
The story in San Francisco is one of the biggest stories in America.
And it is. And isn't that sad that ISIS doesn't do their job? Because, and they talk about Mr.
ICE, you mean, not ISIS. ICE. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Excuse me. But I'm thinking ISIS
sadly
over there
is doing its job.
with the oil and
I got
everything.
it. So,
but let me just say one other
sure.
thing here with Mr. Trump. The fact is, he wants to grow this economy. If we grow the economy, people have more opportunities out there. So what happens? Women even have more opportunities to become part of more industry.
Jen, what's the allure for you? What appeals to you about Trump?
Oh, absolutely. He has an understanding on how to deal with foreign countries and how to make proper trade agreements. He's made agreements of his own. We need to have fair trade for American products going out of our country, number one. Number two, we need to change our customs regulations. We have American companies that have products that are held up and cannot be manufactured because of those customs over-regulations. As a businessman, he understands that. He's dealt with it. He understands that over-regulation stops job creators from creating new jobs.
Kirsten, virtually every Republican leader with whom I've spoken about this says, well, he's peaked. Oh, no, he hasn't peaked. He has peaked. He hasn't peaked. Let's assume he doesn't peak. Let's assume he continues to grow. He's leading in New Hampshire. He's leading nationally. He's leading in Iowa. Is there not a point where Republican leaders like you have to say, the people have spoken. This is what they want. We got to get behind him. Could you get behind him? Can you imagine that?
It's hard to say whether that will happen or not. I mean, I guess, I'm for anybody who can beat Hillary Clinton and who is going to emerge from that field of 17 candidates who
If he were the nominee, would the Massachusetts Republican Party support him?
I am for anybody who can beat Hillary Clinton.
So the answer is you're not quite sure yet.
So the GOP chair for Massachusetts is not going to support the GOP candidate if he turns out being the one that wins the candidate.
I am for whoever can beat Hillary Clinton. I am for whoever can beat Hillary Clinton.
You know, Jen, when you come back, you should be the host of the show, and I'll sit there. Paula Johnson, it's good to see you. Jen Coffey, thanks so much. Pleasure to meet you, too. Kirsten, as always, great to see you.